Hiya, people! Now listen! Welcome to Darren in the studio. Sadly, Darren can't make it today, so he's asked me to come and do a video for him. What he wants to do is, he wants to do his 10 favorite Kiss records. So, hang on a minute here. Let's take this ridiculous accent off. Hiya! Welcome to Darren in the studio. You might be thinking to yourself, why am I dressed like this? Well, two reasons. Number one, by the time you see this video, I will have been to see Kiss for the very last time at the NEC in Birmingham at the Resorts World Arena. Seen Kiss 5 times now on this end of the road world tour. Saw them. Going to see them twice in Birmingham. We saw them at Download, of course. We saw them at Manchester, and we also saw them at Newcastle. So this show tonight, by the time you see it, we'll have done it. But tonight I'm going to see Kiss at the Resorts World Arena in Birmingham, UK, one last time. Okay, so I thought it'd be a great idea, as I've got all the kit on, to do my 10 favorite Kiss albums. Now then, a couple of things. Number one, I haven't included solo albums, compilations, or live albums. These are just the studio albums, normal studio albums released from 1974 right up to the most recent album. And there's no compilations, like I said, no live albums, no sort of all that sort of stuff. These are just the 10 studio albums that if somebody said to me, Darren, you've got to take just 10, which ones are you gonna take? So these are my 10 favorite Kiss albums. Now you will probably have a completely different set of 10, and I've chosen these for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think, my personal opinion, that they're great albums. Also, they bring back memories. They have a special connection with me. The tracks on them, of course. And as a lifelong Kiss fan, these would be the 10 albums that I would really want to take on that desert island if I had to go on that desert island. So, here we go. My 10 favorite Kiss albums. And it's been a nightmare to do these because I love all Kiss albums. I don't think Kiss made any bad albums. I really, really don't. I love them all. But like I said, if I had to choose 10, these would be the 10. Are you ready for number 10? Okay, first off, I've chosen this album, Rock and Roll Over, 1976. Of course, this album has some of Kiss's greatest tracks on it. Take Me, Love 'Em, Leave 'Em, Making Love, I Want You, Calling Dr. Love. Unfortunately, I can't put my glasses on because of the makeup, so I'm struggling to see a little bit. But there you go, number 10. This is a nice little Spanish pressing from the 80s, I think. I bought this in Spain. This was pressed at the Madrid pressing plant. It's on the Casablanca label, but of course, by the time this was repressed in the 80s, sort of Casablanca was sort of no more, really. So at number 10, 1976, Rock and Roll Over. Number 9, here's an album, the first album without all this stuff on. 1983, Lick It Up. This is a very special record for me because this kind of, for me anyway, this took Kiss back to their sort of hard rock image, you know what I mean? First album, of course, to feature Kiss without the makeup. The only album to admit to featuring Vinnie Vincent here. Like I say, first album without the makeup. This is a nice little Casablanca release. In the UK, this came out on the Vertigo label because, like with the other albums, from about sort of 80 onwards, 1980 onwards, Casablanca Records was bought out by Polygram, and sort of a lot of Kiss records came out on Vertigo or Mercury and stuff like this. This came out on Vertigo originally, but this is good. This is a nice little Holland pressing on the tanned Casablanca label. Love this album. A lot of classics on this. Of course, the title track. Of course, Lick It Up. This has got Not for the Innocent on it. I think Gene's work on this is absolutely superb. Not for the Innocent, Young and Wasted, Gimme More, All Hell's Breaking Loose, another big hit for them. Fits Like a Glove, On the Eighth Day, just some of the tracks featured on this. Number 9 in my favourite Kiss albums, Lick It Up. Number 8. Now, number 8, you might say to yourself, really? But I believe this is a true great Kiss album for a lot of reasons, and it's another Spanish pressing. We're talking Unmasked, 1980. Originally in the UK, this came out on the Mercury label. This is actually again on the Casablanca label. I love this album. This features for me some of Gene's best work, as far as I'm concerned. If you listen to his bass lines on some of these songs are great. I love Shandy off this album. The track Shandy, of course, didn't feature any other member of Kiss apart from Paul Stanley. It was Paul Stanley along with a lot of session musicians. Holly Knight, the singer-songwriter, very, very famous singer-songwriter, has just admitted that she, in the recent weeks, she was the one who played keyboards on this album. 1980 Kiss Unmasked. Is That You? Easy As It Seemed. Naked City. She's So European. Ace Frehley's Talk to Me and Torpedo Girl. Two Sides of the Coin as well from Ace. What Makes the World Go Round. You're All That I Want. This is a great record. The first of 2 albums, I think, if I'm thinking right, that Vinnie Poncia produced. Of course, Vinnie Poncia first came onto the scene when he produced Peter Criss's solo album, and he went on to produce this and A&. 1980, in at number 8, it's Kiss Unmasked. In at number 7, that other Vinnie Poncia produced album, of course, Dynasty, another great Kiss album. This one. A lot of people think that Dynasty is just I Was Made for Loving You, but of course it's not. Kiss Dynasty's got a great selection of Kiss classics on it. I mean, Charisma, one of Gene's best songs, surely. Dirty Living, which is the only song featuring Peter Criss on this album. Of course, Anton Fig played the drums on this album, apart from Dirty Living. I Was Made for Loving You, of course, the big single. Magic Touch, Save Your Love, Sure Know Something, another big single here in the UK. X-Ray Eyes, and the superb cover of the Rolling Stones classic 2000 Man. I love this album. 1979. This is an original pressing with the coloured insert. Doesn't have the poster, but it does have the original labels. Again, on the Casablanca label, with the faces on the label there. Next up, what number are we at? 6, 7? I can't remember. What we got? 9, 10, 9, 8, 7. Number 6 in my favourite Kiss albums. Number 6. This is the album that saw Kiss come back to being a heavy rock band. We're talking 1982. And it's this absolute classic. Of course, it's Creatures of the Night. This is the album, of course, that featured a few guitar players, but mainly it featured Vincent Cassano. Originally, sort of did the guitar work for this, and wrote some songs with the band as well. Great album, this. Like I say, this is the album that brought Kiss back into the hard rock sphere. But actually, you know, the tour and stuff like that, apart from South America, didn't do very well, and sales of Creatures of the Night at the time weren't great. Again, on the Casablanca label. This album, of course, is dedicated to Neil Bogart, who founded the Casablanca label, who sadly passed away shortly before this album was released. 1982, of course, Creatures of the Night, Rock and Roll Hell, Danger, I Love It Loud, I Still Love You, War Machine. Man, this is an absolute killer of an album. 1982, Creatures of the Night. Next up in my list of 10 Kiss albums, it's a real Kiss classic. We're talking 1976, the first album of 1976. You've already seen the second album of 1976, of course. It's Destroyer. What a great album this is, produced by Bob Ezrin. This is the album that really brought Kiss into the mainstream. They'd had some limited success, of course. Alive, the first live album, went absolutely mental. But their albums, studio albums, weren't really selling that great. But as soon as Alive kicked in and then this kicked in, it all went absolutely mental. Now, of course, 1976, this album is an absolute gem. This is, sometimes some people would say that this is the go-to Kiss album. Detroit Rock City, King of the Nighttime World, which is a cover version, of course. God of Thunder, Great Expectations, Flaming Youth. Beth is on here. Of course, Beth was originally the B-side of Detroit Rock City in America, but a lot of the radio stations loved Beth so much that they just flipped the record over and started playing Beth all the time. And Casablanca Records re-released Beth as the A-side, and then Detroit Rock City as the B-side. 1976, Destroyer, of course. Okay, we're getting to the sharp end of things now, aren't we? What we're looking at here, we're looking at this album sort of goes along with Destroyer, if you like. Here's another Kiss classic, and another painting done by Ken Kelly. Ken Kelly did the artwork for Destroyer. He also did the artwork for this, of course. This is Love Gun, 1977. This is an original USA pressing, which is really, really nice, because not only has it got sort of all the gump that goes with it, it's got the nice original insert, and also it's got the where you can buy stuff. Kiss wanting to sell you stuff, can you believe it? Even back then. Yeah, this is a nice little original 1977 first press of Love Gun. A lot of classics on this, of course, the title track, Tomorrow and Tonight, Christine 16, Plaster Caster, Shock Me, which was Ace Frehley's first vocal for Kiss on an album. Then She Kissed Me, which I think is a great little cover version, I really do. I Stole Your Love, Hooligan from Peter Criss, 1977, again on the Casablanca label, Love Gun. Next up, in my 10 favourite Kiss albums, this would be in at number 3. This is Kiss's first album, 1974. This celebrates its 50th anniversary next year. This is a nice little original USA pressing without Kissing Time. This does not include Kissing Time. I don't know if you want to just pause the video, and you'll see that it does not include Kissing Time. Released, the only Kiss album released on Casablanca Records that was distributed by Warner Brothers. Casablanca originally had Warner Brothers as their distribution partner, but Warner Brothers quickly bailed out soon after Casablanca was up and running properly. 1974, an album which a lot of people would, including Paul Stanley, say that this album has a lot of mistakes on it. But for me, it's an absolute classic. It's raw, it's heavy, it's really great. And of course, this album's got some of the greatest Kiss songs of all time. Strutter, Nothing to Lose, Black Diamonds on here, Deuce, a lot of Kiss songs that are still played live today. Firehouse, all those kind of things. Like I said, an original USA pressing without Kissing Time. Kissing Time, of course, was recorded later and added to subsequent and all future pressings of this album. Number 3, Kiss, the first album. Number 2, what do you think's number 2 in my favourite Kiss albums? Let me know in the comments below your favourite Kiss albums, of course. But at number 2, I would put this, and it's certainly my favourite album of the Unmasked years, and it's Revenge. 1982 this came out. This is another original UK pressing. This is on the Mercury label, of course. By the time this came out, Casablanca was long gone, and all that work had been swallowed up by Polygram Records. Mercury label through Polygram. Like I say, an original 1982 copy this. Of course, God Gave Rock and Roll to You is on this, which first appeared in the Bill and Ted movie and on the Bill and Ted The Bogus Journey soundtrack album in 1991. But Kiss decided to put it on this album as well. Debut album, of course, for Eric Singer. Sadly, Eric Carr had passed away not long before this album, back in 1991. If you watch the video for God Gave Rock and Roll to You, you'll see that Eric Carr is playing the drums on the video for God Gave Rock and Roll to You, but he isn't actually on the track. He's only drum syncing, if you will, on the video. Eric Carr begged Kiss to let him play on the video for God Gave Rock and Roll to You, and they said, yeah, no worries. And apparently he was so sick, he was wearing a wig and everything. He'd had a really bad time of it. But sadly, he wasn't able to come back to Kiss, and Eric Singer took over and did a great job, of course. This includes the Car Jam 1981, Eric Carr's one and only drum solo that was recorded. So they included that as well. 1982, Revenge. This has got some classics. I mean, come on. Take It Off, Unholy, which was a hit here in the UK, Unholy. Spit, God Gave Rock and Roll to You. Domino, which is a great track. Heart of Chrome, Thou Shalt Not, Every Time I Look at You. I Just Wanna is one of my favourites on this album. 1982, number 2 in my 10 favourite Kiss albums. It's Revenge. So, what's at number 1? There's quite a few albums, of course, that I haven't featured. And maybe you could guess what's at number 1. I don't know. Like I say, there's no live albums, there's no solo albums, there's no compilations within this top 10. But my favourite Kiss album is an album that I love for a few reasons. Number 1, it's one of the first albums I bought for myself. Also, it's an album which is so stripped down. It's almost like the Beatles on acid. It's such a basic album. And for me, it's where Kiss really got into the stride. Apparently, this particular album was rush recorded. The record company, Casablanca Records, really needed another album. So Kiss sort of rush recorded another album, and it featured a song on here, which had been previously recorded by Kiss's former band, Paul and Gene's former band, Wicked Lester. That might give it away for you. Features the song She, which is that song that I'm talking about. And it's this, Dressed to Kill. Dressed to Kill is my favourite Kiss album. Only runs at about 36 minutes. But for me, it's just a great pop rock album. It really, really is. This photograph, of course, taken in New York City. You can still go to that lamppost and have your photograph taken. This is a nice little German pressing from the early 80s. I don't know what to say about this album, apart from every time I hear it, I just love it more and more and more. This will be at my number 1 spot for favourite Kiss albums. Released in 1975, this particular album. Got a lot of Kiss classics on this. Room Service, Two-Timer, Ladies in Waiting, Rock Bottom, and of course, Rock and Roll All Night is where this first appeared. Released as a single, Rock and Roll All Night, from this album, but didn't do anything at all. It didn't really. The first three Kiss albums absolutely bombed when they first came out. They really did, and Casablanca nearly went under, or nearly went bankrupt, until they sort of found other acts like the Village People and Donna Summer to sort of salvage them, really. Kiss weren't a big seller back in the day, but once Kiss Alive came along and they re-released a live version of Rock and Roll Night, of course, the rest is history. So at number one in my favorite Kiss albums of all time would be this, Dress to Kill from 1975. I hope you've enjoyed my favorite Kiss albums. Let me know in the comments your favorite Kiss albums, and of course, thanks for your likes, your subscribes. Hit the bell for notifications if you want to see more videos here at Darren in the Studio. Next time, I probably won't have all this makeup on and I'll be in my normal guise. But thanks for swinging around. Thanks for taking time to watch the video. Leave some comments, views, comments, your favourite Kiss albums, like I said. And we'll see you soon for another video right here in the studio. Take care. Rock and roll all night, people.